Deception, lies, fakery, fraudulence, and forgery. This is what Intelligent Speech 2025 will be bringing to you.
My name's Otto English, and I will be talking about how bad history poisons politics for intelligent speech in 2025.
Hello, I'm Jo Hedwig Theeuwissen. I'll be speaking at the Intelligent Speech 2025 about fake history, how to recognize it, and how to hunt it.
Hello everyone, my name is Wesley Livesey, and I'll be speaking at Intelligent Speech 2025 on the topic of sacrificed in the name of deception, when deception has a very real human cost.
Intelligent Speech 2025, Deception, will be taking place on the 8th of February 2025. Go to Intelligent Speech Online to find out more.
Hello, and welcome to So You Think You Can Rule Persia, the podcast where we rate and review all the kings of Persia from Diocles to Yazdegerd III. I am Sariel, and my pronouns are they, them.
And I'm Umberto, my pronouns are he, him. Hello, everybody, and welcome back. It's been a while, we've had a long winter break, but now we're back.
Sorry
to the main
about
series.
that.
It's
Lots of
here
things
again.
to do.
Hooray!
We managed.
Things get complicated, but we're back. We're good.
We finally get to see what happens.
We're ready to restart the story and see what happens. Yeah, exactly. We left on kind of a cliffhanger last time, so it's good to resolve that and figure out what happened. So, Sariel, you told me you relatively recently re-listened to the old episode.
I did, yes.
To remind yourself of what was going on.
Well, that was
What
a
do you
while
remember?
ago by
What
now, but
stands out
yes,
to you?
I did re-listen to it.
Yes, fair.
It was really
what do you
wild.
still remember from what happened last time?
Well, it was Hormizd IV.
Yes.
Okay, because I'm looking at my drawings. So, it was wild that, like, so much more happened than I expected would happen. And then everything just kind of went to the gutter at the very end because we kept making stupid decisions and playing stupid games and winning stupid prizes.
Yes, correct.
There was this really incredible general who helped us in the war, and then we allegedly, I have to say, maybe this didn't happen at all, but allegedly, just instead of either decommissioning him because he was getting too much power, or like making sure that he was happy in his post and didn't try to take over the throne, we just kind of like mocked him and were like,
Yep.
You are
was
the
a
worst.
smart decision.
And then he was like, okay, well, I have a military that's loyal to me. I am going to usurp the throne because I am also part of the nobility and you've been trying to strip away powers from the nobles, so everyone is going to support me. So bye.
Yes.
So that happened, which, I think it was a ridiculous decision to make, to just like antagonize him further. But like I said, it might not have happened that way. It might have been
Could
like
have been just Bahram,
exactly,
telling everybody that's what happened and that's why he has to march on the capital.
like
and
it could have
become
been he just said that we did that to give him an excuse to attack. But after all of this, apparently, Hormizd IV is still succeeded by his son, even though it looked like Bahram was gonna be the one on the throne. So, what's up with that? Other than maybe his son is like enough of a puppet that is less trouble to do that, because then it's like a legitimate king and you avoid like a full-on further civil war with like opposing powers helping one side or the other, and he's just like, Bahram would actually be the one calling the shots, but I will be like ruling. Or something else happens that I'm not aware of, because
Fair enough, yes. Well, I didn't mention this before, but this is episode 84, Bahram Chobin, also Bahram VI.
Yep.
So, we get to find out this time if Bahram will... I mean, we know that Bahram takes the throne, that he has an episode,
Yes.
that's the point. But essentially, how does he oust Khosrow, the son of Hormizd IV? Khosrow II specifically.
Exactly, so he will get to be on
And,
the throne.
how does he rule?
So Bahram doesn't last too long, or like his dynasty, quote unquote, you know. So like, yeah, are we gonna have a civil war after all, or is just Khosrow gonna like go back to the throne after Bahram is done?
What do you think? Do you think that Bahram's overthrow of the empire will be successful and Khosrow will just come back once he's dead and everything's fine?
I don't think that's
or
how.
Or do you think Khosrow's actually going to
like? I don't think
that
that's how it's happened, because like if he wanted it to be successful, then he would have taken care of Khosrow. Like he would have killed him, or
maybe he couldn't
send him away. And if he just immediately comes back, then
Well, maybe he's just terrible at choosing heirs. Maybe Bahram's very good but has a terrible heir.
Yeah, I guess we'll find out. I don't know.
Those are options. So yeah, I think you gave pretty good recap on Hormizd IV, but just to sum it up quickly, essentially what happened is that Hormizd IV succeeded Khosrow I, Khosrow Anushirvan, who was great, very cool, reformed the empire. Hormizd tries to continue his father's policies, but unfortunately that angered a lot of nobles and antagonized a lot of people. Also, the foreign wars weren't going too well.
Yep.
Like, there was a big invasion of Turks, but that was only saved thanks to Bahram Chobin. And also, the war against the Romans was kind of a stalemate for this whole time, and it lasted all of Hormizd's reign. It was about to end at the end of Khosrow I's reign, but it's now been going on for like decades without much success either way, so it's not ideal. And yeah, as you mentioned, Bahram Chobin was apparently insulted, or said he was insulted, and he marched on Ctesiphon, made himself king, and, well, this is where we are. But in the meantime, between Hormizd's reign and Bahram's reign, there was a small interregnum of Khosrow II that we will be covering in this episode.
I see.
So, alright, let's go through Bahram's life. One of the most interesting things about Bahram is that for the first time since Vologases VI, he was a ruler of Iran that wasn't from the Sassanid dynasty.
Yep.
He was actually from the Mihran family, which was one of the 7 noble families of the empire. In particular, this family had long ruled the area of Rai and the north of Iran. Now, we don't really know exactly when Bahram was born, but based on his career and what he does, we can estimate that he was born somewhere in the late 540s, which would make him a full child of the Khosrow generation. And he got his first important roles at the end of Khosrow's reign. We're actually told that he started out by being a bodyguard of the king, which might have been, a more personal role since it was an important noble. Or it could have been that he was part of Khosrow I's new standing army made of young nobles, and so Bahram was joining this new military body. And then in the army, he gained the nickname Chobin, which means javelin-like or spear-like, because he was tall and slender. So he's Bahram the Spear, which is nice. It's a cool name.
Funny that we
works out.
Still call him that way in our history notes, but I guess that's what nicknames do.
Yeah. I mean, there's so many Bahrams that Bahram VI is just like, which one was that again?
Yeah.
While Bahram Chobin is like, oh yeah, him, Spear Dude. We remember him. But yeah, during his early military career under Khosrow, he was the one who captured the key Roman fortress of Dara in 572, the one that Hormizd didn't want to give up to the Romans and cause the continuation of the war for 20 years.
Right.
Because Bahram managed to take it and it was his, so what are we going to do? Just give it back to the Romans? That sounds lame. They should at least come take it back if they want it that much. But in any case, Bahram was recognized for his skills, and under Hormizd, he was rewarded for his service by being made the general of the north, which is also the traditional region of his family, so doubly helpful for him. And in this new position, he participated partially in the Roman War in Mesopotamia, which we saw last time was relatively inconclusive, but it is possible that Bahram was the one that stopped Maurice from marching against Ctesiphon. Maurice, who was once a general and is now the Roman emperor.
Maurice.
Yes, exactly. But Bahram's big moment came in the year 588 with a massive nomadic invasion from the east. There was an attack by the Turkic Khaganate, which controlled most of the steppe. And in particular, it looks like they sent the Hephthalites, their vassals, to invade Iran and broadly ransack the area. This was quite serious as they managed to flood through the eastern border of the empire, capturing Herat in modern Afghanistan. And so Hormizd said, oh no, we're at war with the Romans and the Turks at the same time. Bahram, please deal with this. And so Bahram was chosen to lead this eastern campaign. First of all, he was given the satrapy of Khorasan, which is roughly Afghanistan and the lands north of it, and 12,000 trained horsemen of the age of 40.
Damn.
When Bahram was asked why he requested these specific soldiers, Bahram said that 12,000 was a prophetically lucky number, and that 40-year-old men would fight all the harder to protect their children and their families.
Fair.
So, we need anybody, it's them. An alternative report has Hormizd mustering every reserve in the capital, which is about 70,000 soldiers, which is quite different, and reasonably likely in a case of we're desperate, the Empire might crack if we fail this, so we should put everything we have in it. But it is sort of less likely because it's mentioned in fewer places, so...
Okay.
You get to decide, Sarah. What do you think? 12,000 40-year-olds or 70,000 soldiers from the capital? We're really using everything we have.
I'm not sure. Like, what is more likely that happened? Because I like the 12,000 40-year-old soldiers. I think that's very good storytelling, right? Since there's reasons behind it. But, like, do we have that many soldiers that we can just be like, you?
I mean, you know, the Empire's large enough. The Empire has tens of thousands of soldiers throughout it. So you could just choose all the senior soldiers in the army and just put them together into one massive body. Because, hey, they also have a lot more experience. You're just choosing all the elites and saying, okay, let's go. Let's make the best we have.
Plus, you said that the other option was not mentioned in that many places.
It's mentioned in fewer sources.
Yeah.
It's mentioned in, like...
So we could just go with this. Yeah, I
one
think...
report. Yeah, okay,
you know.
so 12,000. Brilliant. So Bahram heads out with his 12,000 40-year-old buddies and decides to march towards Afghanistan. He first recaptured several cities that had been occupied by the Turks, and then rapidly invaded the lands of the Hephthalites, crossing the Oxus River and marching directly into the Turkic Khaganate. Upon crossing, the Turkic Khagan offered Bahram the rulership of Iran if only he would submit. But our hero refused, saying, it is not the Khagan's position to give. Bahram will defeat him and do his duty.
Huh, okay.
Pretty cool. Good for him. It is here that Bahram fought the full Turkic army, and then, when he saw that the Turkic Khagan was fleeing to safety from a nearby hill, Bahram personally killed him with a shot of his arrow, which became proverbial.
Huh.
You remember last time? Shot in the head with an arrow from about a kilometer away, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, incredibly badass, honestly.
Yeah, it's a great move. And yeah, in part because of this, Bahram is said to have written a popular manual on archery because he was just really, really good at it.
This is how you do this
Which,
stuff.
know, fair enough. Yeah, this is how you kill the enemy king in one shot. Great. I was originally kind of skeptical about this, one-on-one battle, but then I found that Chinese sources also claim that the Turkic Khagan was killed by an arrow in the west. So, pretty cool. Seems a lot more likely with all that info. That's quite nice. One slightly less impressive story is that it wasn't the Turkic ruler of all. It was just one of his vassal kings that was killed by Bahram.
It's still terrifying, though.
Don't know.
To get
It's
hit
still pretty
by
impressive. It's a good one.
an arrow from so far away and be like, okay, done.
Yeah, just absolutely sniped. The war was then driven to a close, with the Turks not only being repelled back to their lands, but abandoning some of their lands to the empire, which Bahram managed to comfortably add and increase the glory of Hormizd. And according to the Shahnameh, Bahram built a massive mountain of Turkic heads that would later become known as Bahram's Hill.
That's terrifying. That's like way too grim. Why are we doing this?
Yes. Just a warning to anybody else who tries to invade.
I guess that works.
Maybe look what happened last time. So, yeah. Harsh, but hey. Bahram also captured the golden throne of the Turkic Khagans and their entire treasury, which you should remember includes all the tribute that Iran had sent to the steppe in the past decades.
Whoa.
So this is a colossal amount of gold. Yeah. And depending on the versions, one version says it was 300 full camel loads of gold. Al-Tabari says it was 250,000 camel loads.
I think
of
that's a
gold.
bit too much, but like,
which seems a bit
because then
much,
our empire
but yeah,
should be
fair
set
enough.
forever. Like, I don't know how to tell
it
you
could
this.
Be, You're gonna need money, but yeah, 300 camel loads sounds a lot more likely. But this is where we started having a bit of friction with Hormizd, because Hormizd accused Bahram of keeping some of this loot for himself and not sending it back to the empire. Don't know how true it is, but
the accusation is there, which is what matters.
Yeah. Then the son of the Khagan tried to avenge his father and attack Bahram while he was, moving back to Iran, but he was defeated, captured, and sent to Ctesiphon.
Yep.
Where Hormizd held him for 40 days before sending him back to the Turkic realm, saying, "Remember what happened last time.
Don't do it again.
We killed your father, we captured you. Stay down." So, brilliant! Hooray! Bahram is now the hero of the empire. He has managed to save it from doom and instead give it massive riches all around. So, what happens next? What are we doing?
Apparently usurping the throne.
Pretty much, yes. Because Bahram at this point was incredibly powerful and popular at a time when Hormizd was alienating the nobles and undermining their authority.
You're gonna be popular. Sorry.
But yeah, Bahram gained a series of titles which placed him at the center of the Sassanid court and heavily threatened the power of the king. Also, this is in a different context, but I love that in the Shahnameh a character says, "Bahram terrifies the monsters in the oceans when he rides out against his enemies." That's a pretty cool thing to say about somebody.
Damn.
Sea monsters are terrified of you because, oh no, Bahram's coming, good lord. Hide in the depths.
Wow.
But yeah, as we saw last time, this all reached a peak when Bahram was transferred to the Western Front to end the Roman War, and at the same time scared off the Khazars in the process, who were just raiding from the north. But unfortunately for Bahram, he lost a minor battle against the Romans. And so Hormizd dismissed him and said, "Nope, you're no longer general.
He was
Go
just
home.
waiting
Bye."
for him to do something that would give Hormizd the excuse to fire him, essentially.
Exactly. He needed some sort of justification, say, oh, you lost this battle, you clearly don't have it anymore, go home. And then, depending on the stories, Hormizd may have explicitly insulted Bahram by sending him women's clothes and a chain, saying that he was a woman and a slave. Although, again, as we saw last time, it might just be Bahram pretending that he was insulted just so he can have an excuse to march on Ctesiphon. In any case, as we mentioned last time, this rebellion is huge because nobody had challenged the rulership of the Sassanids, and in Shapur II's time, they preferred a newborn to a noble.
Yep.
But now, apparently, the triad of Kavad, Khosrow, and Hormizd trying to drastically reduce the powers of the nobility and reform the empire, it looks like the unspoken contract between the crown and nobility has been broken, and the nobles have decided,
you know what?
If we're gonna lose everything, we might as well try to take everything at this point. So off we go. And we also see this in the Shahnameh, when Bahram's advisors and his sister try to dissuade him from rebelling, because even in mythology, no servant tries to overthrow the king, and that trying to do so would only last for a moment and destroy them all at the end.
Fair enough.
But Bahram decides, I'm going to try it anyway. What am I going to do? Just retire and probably be executed at some point? No, let's not do this. Go down swinging. So Bahram appointed a subordinate to take over Khorasan and make sure the Turks didn't take advantage of the situation.
Smart.
Then he marched towards his home of Rai to gather support before marching on Ctesiphon itself. He also started minting coins in the name of Khosrow, son of Hormizd, possibly in the hopes of using him as a puppet king or just to make the court in Ctesiphon be destabilized enough. Because, if Hormizd gets coins of his son, then that sounds like a rebellion, so
I see.
you can't work together. So
So
Bahram gets to sow some chaos, and maybe if Bahram gets to Ctesiphon, he can use Khosrow as a puppet and say, Pat, you can do things while I'll actually rule.
I see.
This caused enough chaos that Khosrow himself fled to Azerbaijan after this to avoid his father's wrath.
Right.
Hormizd himself sent an army to try and stop Bahram, but the army simply killed their general and switched sides. Yep. So, cool. Now Hormizd is just more soldiers. Then the nobles Bestam and Bendoy of the Ispabadan family decided, with the complicity of the young Khosrow, to kill the King of Kings and install his son as Khosrow II, in the hopes that Bahram's quarrel was only with Hormizd, not Khosrow, so now that the succession has happened, please go back to fighting our war for us, and it'll be okay. Khosrow decided to write a letter summoning Bahram to Ctesiphon, offering him many gifts, a pardon, and the highest of noble titles. But at this point, Bahram has a massive army just outside the capital.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, is he interested at all? Because
he's like, he's gone this far, you know.
Yeah.
Even if he does submit, he's always going to be the guy that tried to take the throne.
Yeah.
You know, that's an easy way to get poisoned at a feast one day.
Yeah.
So you might as well just finish the job and do everything.
Yeah, that's fair.
He actually added more legitimacy to himself, saying, well, I was quarreling with Hormizd, but I didn't want to kill him, and now Khosrow killed his own father?
Oh, I see.
Well, clearly I need to depose him. I mean, what is he doing? He killed the legitimate king. What's going on?
Like, this is clearly a usurpation. This is what we should be worried about.
Very much so.
That.
And then, Serial, we get a beautiful exchange of letters.
Oh, yay.
Because we have them preserved. We have preserved letters, Serial, from an author called Theophylact Simocata, that I can only quote in full because they are excellent. So, this here is Bahram writing to Khosrow. It says, Bahram, beloved of the gods, victorious, illustrious, enemy of usurpers, patron of the nobles, commander of the Persian force, sensible, capable of commanding an army, God-fearing, irreproachable, of noble birth, fortunate, sagacious, venerable, responsible, cautious, mild, humane, to Khosrow the son of Hormizd. We have received what was written by your defective and minuscule intelligence.
Wow.
And I have not accepted the things which you have had the audacity to attempt to send. You should not have employed either royal letters or gifts in your dealings with us, especially in view of the fact that your election has overtaken the Persian state in such a disordered fashion, and men of note and of noble lineage have played no part in voting, along with persons of turbulent character and low birth. So lest you get caught up in your father's perils, lay aside the diadem and deposit it in a holy place and withdraw from the palace, and it is imperative that those convicted criminals who have dared to do as you have done should be put back in prison. For it is not in your competence to release without investigation malefactors from the punishment befitting them under the laws. Once you have done this, come to us, and you shall be appointed ruler of a region of the Persian Empire. Farewell, and know what is good for you. If you do not, then perish like your ancestors.
Oh my god. Know what is good for you.
Yeah, I especially love I received what was written by your defective and minuscule intelligence.
Yep. Doesn't get much more just rude than that.
Yes, catty. And I also love that he has like a million titles, and then it's to Khosrow, the son of Hormizd.
Yeah.
So, good stuff. And, well, let's see what Khosrow answered. Khosrow answered, Khosrow, king of kings, master of dynasts, lord of nations, monarch of peace, savior of men, among the gods a virtuous man who lives forever, among men a god most manifest, surpassingly glorious, victorious, rising with the sun and bestowing eyes on the night, distinguished in lineage, a king who hates war, bounteous, who engages the services of the Sassanids, and who keeps the kingdom safe for the Persians, to Bahram, general of the Persians, and our friend.
And our friend, I see.
We have received a memorandum of your celebrated valor, and we're delighted to learn that you are well. Yet certain phrases were set down in your letter which did not come from your heart. But perhaps the scribe fell into a drunken stupor and composed vain and outrageous fantasies. Yeah. It's great.
Yeah, surely you didn't mean it.
Of course
It
didn't
must
need
be a
this, I
mistake,
mean,
right?
Yeah, your scribe must have been absolutely blackout drunk. But since in these days the trees have cast off their garments and dreams have no force, we were not upset on that account. We received the royal throne in due and proper fashion and did not subvert the customs of the Persians, and let us not put back in prison those who were brought safely out of prison. For it is not fitting that the king's dispensation should be rendered null and void. And we are so confident of not relinquishing the diadem that, if there actually are other worlds, we expect to rule over those too. We shall come to you in a manner more befitting a king, either to win you over with words or to subdue you with weapons. If you wish to do well, consider what must be done. Enjoy good health, you who shall be our best ally. So, I love
Very
this
passive
conversation.
aggressive.
It's great.
You know. Very, I'm sure that was just an autocorrect mistake, and you didn't mean it.
Yes, I'm sure your massive rant was just autocorrect. It'll be fine. So, just chill out. I'm the legitimate king. Your scribe is probably drunk. I'm still giving you one chance to surrender.
Take it.
See what happens. Yeah. But it's time to go to war then, because them's fighting words.
Yeah.
Bahram and Khosrow met together in modern Azerbaijan, and upon seeing them all, and Khosrow returned, Bahram said, according to Al-Tabari, and I quote, "Do you not see that the son of a whore has put on flesh and grown fat, has made the transition from youth to manhood, experience, has acquired an ample beard and a full-grown moustache, and his body has become stout?"
The fuck, man?
Apparently, yeah. It's intense. And Khosrow then offered to make Bahram a general of all the empire if he surrendered, but Bahram said, "Instead, I have chosen a day to crucify you," which is pretty hardcore.
Yep. Jeez.
So, a great climactic battle between the two lords begins. And who do you think is successful, Serial?
Well, I don't know how Khosrow is with his army.
He's a young, teen or early 20s, I can't remember right now, but he's a young man. This is his first
Yeah,
command
I think Bahram
versus
will
Bahram,
win.
the hero
Yeah.
of the East.
That's what I would expect, unless, something wild happens.
Bahram did manage to absolutely wipe the floor with Khosrow and his supporters. He gained many deserters out of the battle who just changed sides as soon as they saw Khosrow was failing, and Bahram deposed another king less than a week after the last.
Yep.
But that didn't really fix everything, because one of the noble supporters of Khosrow, Bendoy, allowed himself to be captured, and he was treated honorably by Bahram, to be fair.
Mm-hmm.
But this capture allowed for the escape of Khosrow and Bendoy's brother, Bestam, to Roman territory, with which we're still at war. And it's also interesting to note that Bahram's brother joined the exiled king as well.
Oh. Maybe because he was worried he would be seen as a threat.
Possible, yes. Murdering your brothers is a common thing to do once you ascend the throne, so fair enough, understandable. But while they fled off to Roman territory during the war, that we're still at war with Romans, never to be seen again. Let's see what happens next for Bahram.
Damn.
Because Bahram then managed to enter the capital of Ctesiphon in 590 and was crowned King of Kings during the New Year festival of Nowruz. He then announced that Sassan, the founder of the Sassanid dynasty, was only a lowly shepherd, and his family had usurped the throne that was legitimately due to the Arsacids. And since Bahram's family was descended from them, he was there to establish a new empire, and at last wipe away the Sassanid dynasty forever.
I see.
We're told that not everybody accepted this new regime, and another man called Bahram was sent to kill our new king, but Bahram Chobin actually killed his own assassin with his bare hands.
Yeah.
And managed to continue
Like,
reigning,
he
which is
seems like
good
a
for
tough
him.
guy,
Yeah, exactly. He has experience fighting
Military
people.
experience. Like, yeah.
He won't go down without a fight. And now there's an interesting twist here, Sarah.
Oh.
Because do you know how the Sassanids, or, the Iranians of this time, were counting years?
No.
They were still using the Seleucid calendar
I see.
that started in 312 BC, because they assumed that that was the date that the prophet Zoroaster or Zarathustra was around.
Mm-hmm.
And well, there is a prophecy, Serial, that the
Oh.
Arsacid dynasty would last 500 years after the time of Zoroaster, while the Sassanids would last another 500 years. And now, Serial, we are getting close to the year 1000,
Ooh.
heralding the end of the world.
This is very cool, when things actually, line up.
Yeah, it works out. It's very cool, because we're not yet at the year 1000, but we're roughly in the year 900. And the prophecy said that there would be chaos across the empire, disastrous wars against the nomads in the east and the Romans in the west. But the prophecy ends with the appearance of a savior, of non-Sassanid blood, who would defeat the nomads and begin 1,000 years of a glorious new dynasty.
Here we go.
And guess who just killed the Turkic Kagan with an arrow?
Ooh, when prophecy's on your side,
Yes.
there's very little people can do to keep it from going to your head, huh?
Yes. Our boy here, Bahram Chobin, claims to be the heralded Messiah and decides that he will begin his new 1,000-year empire.
Yeah.
So that's going pretty well for him.
Yeah,
Good
are
that
you
it
gonna
lines
say
up
he's wrong?
chronologically. I mean, everything in the prophecy matches, so fair enough.
Ugh.
On the downside, the nobles of the empire were a bit uncomfortable with one of them taking the throne. And it fully looked like Bahram wasn't taking the throne to give power back to the nobles, he was taking the throne so that he could be the one in charge.
Yeah, as people do.
Yeah. So, the nobles are grumbling a bit. They're saying, oh, we thought this was him saving the nobility, but he's actually just becoming a powerful king with a new dynasty. Oh no, this is not how it was meant to work.
This is not what we wanted. How did this happen?
Bahram also decided to be religiously tolerant, which didn't gain him any support from the clergy. He was like, yeah, whatever, just pay taxes.
Yeah. Which
is a good strategy, but apparently angers people.
Yeah, because it makes the clergy less powerful.
Actually, it looks like he opposed the established Sassanid version of Zoroastrianism and tried to encourage a new variation, or a local variation, based on the worship of the god Mithra, which had themes of military strength and justice,
that makes
both
sense.
of which would appeal to him. We don't know to what extent this was planned to be a massive reform or just a minor clearing out of Sassanid influence, saying, here's my new Yazata, he is very cool, this is how my new empire is starting. Although it's interesting that later sources have Bahram speaking with an Orthodox Zoroastrian and calling Ahura Mazda your god, which implies a significant disagreement.
Yeah, true.
But then Jessica came over to Bahram and said, hey, there's news. First of all, from the prisons. You know Bendoy, the supporter of Khosrow? He's escaped. He's gone to join Khosrow.
Whoops.
Also, second news, there's like a 40,000 strong army coming from Roman territory towards Armenia. We gonna do anything about that? We good?
Did you know?
By the way, yeah. Because Khosrow had spent some fruitful time at the Roman court. He had spoken with the Roman Emperor Maurice and petitioned him to restore Khosrow to the throne of Iran. Bahram had also written to Maurice and asked him to be neutral during this transition period in exchange for the city of Nisibis and all the lands west of the Tigris, which, pretty impressive concession. But as I mentioned, an army of 40,000 Romans appeared on the western border with Khosrow at its head. And there they met together with 12,000 Armenians and 8,000 Iranian loyalists under Bendoy and Bestam. At first, Bahram tried to convince the viceroy of Armenia to support his cause since he was also descended from the Arsacids, and so they should have no love for the Sassanids. But perhaps the size of the Roman army moving towards them was significant enough that the viceroy refused and joined the invaders. At the same time, Khosrow was putting out a different prophecy, which said that at the end of the millennium, there would be a lowly eastern usurper who would not last long. There would be a brief period of foreign occupation until peace and prosperity would be restored by a new savior king. And he was actually the Messiah.
Yeah, when you can make the prophecies
He's
yourself.
not the Messiah, he's a very naughty boy. The fact that Khosrow promised to also cut taxes in half and make great donations to fire temples helped to sway many undecided nobles. This sounds good. This sounds what we wanted from Bahram in the first place. So nice. He also dug in a little more propaganda by saying that the Parthians had only come to the throne by being complicit with Alexander in destroying the ancient glorious empire, and so they were illegitimate in the first place, so Sassanids are the best overall. So screw you with your past legitimacy. Bahram then rushed out with a much smaller army from Ctesiphon to avoid these two enemy forces from joining up together. But he arrived just after they'd merged into one overwhelming army of about 60,000 soldiers. The pro-Khosrow sources tell us that the two kings fought hand to hand and that Khosrow himself took Bahram's spear from him and proceeded to beat him over the head until the spear broke.
Woof.
However, in the Shahnameh, we're told that Bahram had cornered Khosrow and was about to kill him, but Khosrow was spirited away by the Yazata Straosha, or the angel in the book. In any case, the battle lasted for 3 full days until Bendoy promised Bahram's men a pardon in Khosrow's name, and that broke Bahram's defense at last, causing him to lose the battle. Not only that, but Bahram had his wives and children captured while the road back to Ctesiphon was taken by Khosrow. Out of options, Bahram took his remaining 4,000 soldiers and marched to the east. Along the way, he was attacked by the armies of other nobles that he still managed to defeat. We're told that he sheltered at an old woman's house during his flight and asked her how the war was going and what she thought of Bahram. And the old woman told him he was an ignorant fool claiming the kingship and not from the people of the kingdom's house.
Woof.
So, looks like the legitimacy plan didn't work out. The loyalist propaganda for this also can be seen in the Shahnameh, where Khosrow tells Bahram that, and I quote, "A crab cannot sprout eagle's wings, and an eagle cannot fly beyond the sun." So, know your place. Kingship is something you're born for. It's not something you take for yourself.
I mean, except it is.
I mean, yeah, but, officially, unofficially, legitimacy stands with being able to punch the other person harder than they can punch you. But, formally...
Formally is given by the gods,
there's something else. Exactly. In the end, fleeing to the east, Bahram realized he didn't have the resources to retake the empire, so he would need to find allies elsewhere. So where do you think he goes, Serial?
Please tell me he doesn't go to Rome.
No,
Okay.
The Romans are supporting
Yeah, that's
Khosrow.
what
They're marched
thought,
on Ctesiphon, so it's fine. Yeah.
That would be so funny, though. I mean, the Romans are known
that
for
would be
just
great.
like, doing whatever.
Very confusing politics from the Romans, but,
They are
it might
known
be.
for doing whatever benefits them, so
True enough.
Hmm.
So where else could he flee?
To the steppe? Like to the east? Or to the...
He does flee to the steppe. He actually flees to those nice Turks he had built a mountain of skulls out of a few short years ago.
I'm sure they will welcome him.
Yeah, it'll be a good time. It'll be nice. Because, Bahram crossed the Oxus River and was honorably welcomed by the new Turkic Khagan.
What?
Incidentally, the one Bahram had captured during the original war, and he had spared.
Wait, seriously?
Apparently so. He was hired as a great and talented general by the Turks.
Fair, because if you can get your enemy's best general on your side, they're gonna know all the things. So,
yeah,
I guess.
Yeah, apparently Bahram excelled in this service and even uncovered a conspiracy by the Khagan's brother to take the throne.
Wow.
It looks like once the conspiracy was uncovered, they agreed to a duel where each man would shoot an arrow at the other.
If we know
Boy's good at
one
anything,
thing
it's
about
shooting
Bahram.
Turks. Yes. So he managed to mortally wound the Khagan's brother and win the duel, of course. But in the meantime, we can't have nice things, Serial.
Oh, God.
Because what do you think Khosrow's mood is back in Ctesiphon?
I bet he's pretty mad.
He is annoyed. And, if he could come back with a foreign army and take the throne, Bahram can come back with a foreign army and take the throne. So maybe we should take care of this situation, shouldn't we?
Maybe.
We are told that Khosrow then sent an assassin against Bahram, and he was murdered in the year 591. There's a whole story about Bahram's sister being a lover of Khosrow and helping out with the plot, but that's very romanticized, so pinch of salt, of course. According to the Shahnameh, the version of this is that a messenger was sent to Bahram, supposedly carrying a message from a Turkic princess, but it had to be whispered to Bahram personally.
Well,
So the messenger then got up real close to Bahram himself
and stabbed him.
and took a knife out of his
Yeah.
sleeve and stabbed him.
Yeah.
Yeah. Apparently, the household later broke the messenger's arms and legs to find out who sent him, but by then Bahram was dead.
Yeah, who cares?
In one version of the story, Bahram's head was sent all the way to Ctesiphon and placed over the main gate of the royal palace as a sign to everybody that you do not rebel, you do not claim the throne. It is only of the Sassanid dynasty. Never try this again.
I see.
So yeah.
Fair.
In the end, Bahram's 1,000-year empire did not last 1,000 days, although his followers would long expect him to return one day to fulfill his destiny. In actual later medieval history of Iran, the Samanid dynasty would draw their legitimacy from their family relationship with Bahram. So, he was still remembered.
I see. I mean, he
Despite,
was
you know,
incredible,
Failing.
you know.
Yeah, there's an epic poem with his name. It's the Bahram Chobin Name, which is pretty cool, so there we are.
Not everyone gets that.
No. You need to be pretty special for that sort of thing. So, alright, Sarah, what did you think of Bahram Chobin? What are your opinions? Like you expected, different?
Like, what a ride.
It was a lot of stuff going on, yes. Back and forth.
Woof. I mean, cool, you know? Cool man, but like not as cool as I would have liked in the sense of righteous and noble. Just like a dude with a lot of power who wanted to use it to get more power, and sometimes it worked and sometimes it didn't. Like,
yeah.
Good attempt. Could have gone either way. Like, you know, the entire like, oh, that you are failing because I was like Khosrow saying I was destined from the beginning and you're just finding out what you should have known all along, that you're not made for the throne because you must be born a king, blah, blah, blah. It's like, yeah, but you could have also lost. Like, you know.
Yeah. No, you only won because of the Romans.
Yeah.
Speaking of
Oh,
which,
God,
how do
no,
you think
now we owe
Khosrow's
them.
going to do?
Ugh.
Yeah, we owe the Romans, and we're still technically at war with them, so we'll see what the peace is like, but
Ugh.
Khosrow has been put on the throne by the Romans. Do you expect good things from him?
No. God, this is gonna suck.
Yeah, we'll find out next time in Khosrow II's episode.
Yay.
Is this a good start to your reign? Is this going to go well?
Debatable.
We'll find out. But yeah, at this point, are you ready to rate Bahram Chobin?
Let's do it.
Let's go. Our first category is final moments. How interesting was his death? Fleeing, exiled in the land of the Turks, and then being stabbed to death by a messenger.
I can imagine he would have preferred to die in battle.
Fair, yes. Going out in a blaze of glory probably would have been more exciting. I think assassinations are interesting. You don't get them very often.
Yeah, no, like, I like it. It's a good story. I just think he might have been kind of disappointed.
Oh, yeah, sure. You definitely would have enjoyed a different way. But, yeah, so we know that Khosrow sent the assassins, so it's cool that we know that. We know that Bahram was making a new life among the Turks, and that was cut short.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Good story.
yeah, how would you rate it?
Like a 6, you know, like interesting enough.
Yeah, I think a 6 is reasonable.
Heartbreaking that he was gonna make a new start and was like doing well.
Yeah, exactly. He had the whole, he was becoming friends with the new Turkic ruler, so that was nice. Killed his brother for him. So, yeah, I agree. I think a 6 is a good one because, it's not like he personally knew his assassins or, had a deep relationship with Khosrow, but it's nice that it's like, yes, assassination, yes, he knew the person who planned to kill him. So, that works. So, yeah, with a 6 and a 6, we get a 6 out of 10 for final moments. Our next category is battle hardness. How good was he at war and fighting? I mean, this is kind of his round because he was great. He managed to capture the Roman fortress of Dara early in his career, which was one of the strongest forts that the Romans had, and it was so important that the Romans continued the war for decades to ensure it went fine. Bahram also stopped Maurice, who was just a general at the time, from marching on Ctesiphon. He used some clever maneuvers to send him back to the Roman territory. That was pretty cool. That was impressive. He then defeated the massive Turkic horde in the east. He managed to save the empire and actually conquer new territory. This is all as a general, which is pretty impressive. And he killed the Turkic Khagan on his own. We get corroboration from Chinese sources. That's pretty impressive. That's a cool thing to do. He then managed to march on Ctesiphon. That wasn't much of a fight. The soldiers just joined him. He defeated Khosrow in a first battle up in the Caucasus and sent him fleeing. And then, on the downside, he did lose a small battle with the Romans, which caused him to start the rebellion in the first place. And then also he did lose the final battle against Khosrow, but to be fair, he was massively outnumbered. Essentially, he had half the Iranian army that he was using to fight all the Roman army and the other half of the Iranian army. So, fair enough. It's not that he was just bad, it was the conditions were really overwhelming. And then, the last bit of battle hardness is, I guess, the archery duel he has with the Khagan's brother that he managed to kill comfortably and easily enough. So I think he is very impressive with battle hardness.
That is his whole deal. He's a good general and good at military.
That is why he becomes important, So I'm wondering what to give him, because he does ultimately lose.
Yeah, let's go from the top down. Let's start at a 10 and subtract points.
My honest evaluation is somewhere between 8 and a 9. I'm wondering how much weight to put on the fact that he does ultimately lose the final battle. Because, he does lose the small skirmish with the Romans, but, it was a pretext. We know nothing more about it. Maybe he just sent a scouting party and they got repelled. We don't know, honestly. So what are you thinking, Cyril? What is your mood?
I'm thinking, okay, if we give him a 9,
yes,
what would subtract points from that? Is there anything?
I mean, his 2 losses are big defeat against Khosrow and the Romans, and minor defeat against the Romans early in his career, but very small. It depends how bad you consider that. Honestly, I think I'm going to go for a 9 because his personal fightiness is so good.
That sounds good, yeah. Honestly, I can't really
think it's fair.
Justify giving him less.
Because, Khosrow the First was also very good, but he didn't fight as much in person. We don't have specific feats that he is in charge of. We don't have an epic poem about him. We have one about Bahram.
Exactly.
Very good. So with a 9 and a 9, he gets an 18 out of 20 for battle hardness. Our next category is scheminess. How good was he at plots and manipulations? Well, here it depends what you believe about Hormizd. Because Bahram may have been embezzling the money from the Turkic War. So that's kind of schemy. And he may have also just started the whole pretext saying, oh, look, Hormizd insulted me by sending me these things.
Yeah.
That's why I need to march on the capital and make myself king of kings. So that's pretty intense.
I think we should consider those things, if anything, because they might have happened. Even if they're not true, it's part of the story.
Yeah, fair.
It might also be that we haven't given a king any scheminess in so long. And I'm like, you know what?
Khosrow was reasonably schemy, but yeah. So then he also started minting coins with Khosrow II's name on it to cause trouble. That was fun. That was good. Well, he managed to uncover a plot by the Turkic Khagan's brother. Must have been pretty good at hearing what was happening in court. That's pretty good. And then, that was kind of it, I'd imagine. It's a good amount. There's some good stuff. But, I think that's as far as it goes, unless you can remember anything specific.
Not much. I think that's it.
But, so how much would you rate that? It's mostly around his succession, so it's partially the embezzling, partially the justification for war, partially the Khosrow thing, partially the Turkic court. So what do you think?
A 5, maybe? Let's see, there's the coins,
5.
There's the provocation to his war, there's the help to the Turks. Is that it?
There's the taking money from the
embezzling money.
Turkic horde.
That's just I don't know if that's very schemy. No, maybe a 3, actually.
Only a 3? No, I think I do like the fact...
Who else did we give a 3?
Who else did we give a 3 to? We gave it to Peroz the First. We gave it to Bahram the First. who did the whole usurpation of his brother, who cares about his will. And then you gave it to Darius II and Bardia. So those are the threes. I think I like the fact that he might have just triggered the civil war because he felt like it. I mean, not because he felt like it, but, because he could.
Yeah.
So I think I'm going to go for a 5. I think I like the middle of the road.
I'll go for a 4 then.
It's not his
I'm
main
not that
topic,
convinced.
Fair enough. So with a 5 and a 4, we get a 9 out of 20 for scheminess. Our next category is shock factor. How shocking was this man? Well, he is the first non-Sassanid king for 300 years. So that's pretty impressive. He claims to be the Messiah that has come to inaugurate the millennium and the end of the world.
He just straight up has a god complex.
Fair enough. Pretty cool. He builds a mountain of Turkic skulls on the border, saying, don't.
Yeah.
Maybe don't. That's pretty cool. He writes a very catty letter to Khosrow saying, we have received what was written by your defective and minuscule intelligence.
That is so good.
That's fun. That was a good letter exchange. I enjoyed it.
Damn.
He also has the, but I have chosen a day for crucifying you line, which is pretty good. Also, when all is lost, he flees to the Turks, and apparently everything is fine there. So
the
that's
Turks
cool.
that he made a mountains of skulls with.
Yeah, and they're like, "Yep, you're good enough, General."
I guess
that we
they
will overlook
respect that. It's messed up.
Yeah, exactly.
But they're like, we would have done the same.
Yeah, pretty messed up. He's not, gratuitously cruel. We don't receive terrible signs of that.
No,
it looks like he is just very ambitious. A bit corrupt, but,
Who isn't? Yeah.
So, yeah, I'd say it's pretty high up, but not the higher echelons. I'm saying like a 6-ish, maybe 7, I could be convinced. For the whole marching on the capital for the first time, being the first usurper of a different dynasty.
This is for shock factor.
Yes. The whole being a messiah is pretty good,
Yeah.
actually, I will say. I think I'm heading towards a 7.
I'll stay at a 6, but that is a good point. I'm mostly impressed by him going back to the Turks and the Turks being like, yeah, you know what?
That was fun. Like, oh, hey, you captured me last time I tried to fight you. Yeah, sure, you can come. It's fine. It's cool. Yeah. I don't know if you want to round up by giving him points for the fact that he did literally kill the Turkic Khagan in personal combat. I mean, personal combat. Sniped him, but still. But yeah, okay. So with a 7 and a 6, he gets a 13 out of 20 for shock factor. Our next category is Aaron Shine. How good was he for the Empire in general and Iran in particular? Well, okay, let's go with his early career. Early career, he manages to capture the fortress of Dara. That's great for the Empire. Very important fortress that is the gateway to Syria. If we keep that, we're doing great. He then, of course, repels the Turkic invasion. He manages to save the Empire from that fate. And at the same time, he also expands it, which is brilliant. He just does more and more. He also tries to continue the reforms of the previous kings to decrease the power of the nobility. That's pretty good.
Weirdly enough.
On the downside, he does cause a civil war.
Whoopsie.
He overthrows the legitimate king. That's not great.
Yeah.
And then he loses at the end, and the Romans, have their own.
Yeah.
We'll see next time how much of a puppet Khosrow is, but, they put a king that owes them the throne there.
Yep.
So that's pretty intense.
That's gonna be bad.
Kind of Bahram's fault. Khosrow would have succeeded anyway, except now he has a massive Roman debt.
Yeah.
So, Bahram does do good things for the Empire, but also not great things.
Well, that's usually when you bring instability, it's not typically great.
No.
And that's ultimately
it's
what he
tough.
did for his own gain. He brought instability to the Empire.
Yes, but he also did save the Empire from the Turks and
Yeah,
expand eastwards.
When he was doing his job, it was great.
Yeah. As a subordinate, brilliant. As a king, slightly less.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking my base starting point is like a 4, where it's like he's done some good, but I think he's put more instability, but it's not, massively destabilizing the empire. What are you thinking?
Yeah, I think things. I don't know if they cancel each other out exactly. So I wouldn't go for a 5, which is like, baseline.
Yeah, I think they mostly cancel each other out, but then there's enough
But the Roman thing,
bad
man,
stuff starting
like,
with cost. Yeah, exactly. That's bad enough that
yeah,
it overshoots. Goes down to a 4.
yeah.
Are you matching a 4 as well, or going lower?
No, I am.
Okay, very well. So with a 4 and a 4, he gets an 8 out of 20 for Aaron Shine. Our next category is Face of Faces. What do you think this man looked like? And I have a description for you
Yay!
of the man. From the Shahnameh, Bahram was tall and wiry, his head covered in black curls, with a large nose and dark-skinned. So that's what the man looks like.
Nice. I'll.
Oh, and let me get you his crown. I like the crown. It has a little diadem floofs to it. Okay, so Cyril has finished their drawing. Let me get up and tell you what it looks like. Ooh, that's nice. I like it.
Gave him
Ooh, I like the
just
style.
armor,
Yes.
because,
That's cool. Good armor, yeah. So what we have is a man standing tall and proud and, long and thin as he's been described. He is a spear man. And yeah, he is wearing a nice shirt of chainmail. Goes down the rest of his body. And in his hands, he has a powerful bow that he is ready to shoot at anybody who gets close enough.
I don't even know if I put that in the right hand, but you can flip the drawing. It's fine.
He might have been a lefty. It's fine. We don't know. There's no proof that he wasn't. He has a lovely mass of curls on his head, a big strong beard, an intense nose, and he's looking out with determination as he has a lovely crown with like a main sphere in front and a smaller sphere on top, a half moon in front, and little wings of the diadem pointing out towards the side.
Your typical crown.
Yeah, a good crown. It's a nice one. And so he looks very cool and very ready to mess stuff up.
Yeah.
So yeah, thank you, Cyril. If any of you want to see this lovely drawing, you can go to our Discord if you're a patron, or you can go to the episode notes in the description, or on our website at Cyril's Portrait Gallery. Now let me show Cyril what he actually looked like, and I have 2 versions here. One is contemporary, and one is from the epic poem. So one is significantly better than the other.
Right, yeah.
Contemporary, we have a coin.
Hey. Yeah. I don't know what to tell you.
It's not a very good coin.
I hate this
sorry.
coin.
It's very sad. Doesn't do him justice.
Well, maybe hate is too strong of a word, but like it's hard to see what's going on. Like you can recognize the profile of a face, but like where's the hair? The face just ends at the ear, and the crown you can barely.
Crown is a generic blob.
Yeah, like you can tell there's a hat on the head, and that's about it. I like the decorations outside, like the frame of it.
That's quite nice, yeah.
But I don't like this at all.
Broadly not great.
This gets
So
like
is
a
what we're
1
rating
from
on.
me.
Very sad. But here is what it looks like in the epic poem.
fun.
He is the one to the left, Turkic Kagan to the right. It's just been shot.
This is really pretty. I really like this, actually. Even though it's like inaccurate in looks, it's a really beautiful piece of art, actually. I love the colors and I love the composition, the style. Like overall, this is really cool.
Yeah, this one's gorgeous and,
Yeah, this
So,
gets like
it's nice.
I mean, it's not contemporary. Is it contemporary? It's not contemporary.
This isn't.
And it's also not like accurate.
It's like how many years later? This is 700 years
yeah.
after.
Yeah, so it
pretty
gets like a couple
non-contemporary.
points off, but then I would give this an 8 because it's so nice, just like not accurate,
Yes.
or maybe a
Very
7.
good. Unfortunately, we're rating on the sad coin.
Yeah. So I mean,
sad
if I go
coin
in
it is.
between, I'd give it like a 4, but just for the coin, a 1. And I'm thinking if to give it a
Yeah.
0. Like it tells me nothing other than maybe this is
It's
Bahram.
there. It exists. I
Ugh.
think that's as much as you can say about this coin. It exists.
This coin is from the time, so people at the
Yeah,
time might
so,
have touched
yeah.
it, which is cool.
Yeah, fair. So I'm gonna go with a 1. And yeah, if you're matching as well, it's just like sad. Could have done so much better, but oh well. So yeah, with a 1 and a 1, he gets a 0.5 out of 5 for Face of Faces.
Why even show me the other one if we're not rating it?
Because you know what could be. You know, he eventually has good representations, but not
Okay, good. It's not just my drawing and that's it.
No. Our next category is lengthiness. How long do you think this man reigned?
1,000 days?
No, not even
yeah,
that.
no, that seems very long. I feel like a year, maybe.
Yeah, thereabouts.
Wow, that was really bad. Like, he
was
truly
tough.
did not make
Yeah.
it, huh? Like, 0
Yeah, no.
success.
He tried. Because he reigned from summer of 590 to summer of 591, giving him a total of 1 year, divided by 10. There's an amount of 0.1 out of 5 for lengthiness. So that brings us to the final score, which is a grand total of 54.6 out of 100, which is a very honorable score, which places him above Cyrus the Great and just below Phraates IV of defeating the Romans' fame. So, yeah, he's doing quite well. There's only 2 non-Shahanshahs above him, which is Cambyses II and Phraates IV. Which leads us nicely into the final question, which is to say, is he military enough? Is he the Messiah enough? Is he being accepted by the Turks again enough to be a Shahanshah? Or is he just a Shahanah?
Nah, I don't... Nah.
You don't think so?
I don't... Like...
No?
He didn't become... Like, he became king for like a year. If he had actually...
cool while he was doing it.
He already has an epic poem. Like...
I know! How many people get an epic poem?
He didn't...
You know?
Like, if he had then just started his own dynasty, absolutely. But he immediately...
I mean, that absolutely sure, but he also... He's very cool. He kills the Turkic Khagan. He manages to go back to the Turks and just hangs out there. That's fun. He is the Messiah. He calls himself the Messiah.
Yeah, that's different.
That's pretty cool.
That's different than being
I mean,
the
sure.
Messiah. I don't know.
I think... are you not
I
convinced?
am not.
Because when I was writing this, I was like, oh yeah, absolutely. Even the letter, there's a really cool set of catty letters he has
Just don't
with
like
Khosrow.
him, man. Like...
Fair enough, but I think I'm still for a Shahanshah for him.
This might be the first time when we're like
Yes.
not in accordance.
If you want, I have a coin of Bahram V I can flip. If you're not
His
convinced,
previous
we
Bahram.
Can, we can make
Gore.
the previous Bahram choose.
Sure.
Because I think he deserves it.
Okay.
I think he's cool enough. It's
Okay.
worth it.
Let's flip the coin then.
Flip the coin. Okay, so the face is
I
going to
wouldn't
be
give
yes.
it to him, but I can
the back
understand
is
your argument. So,
Yes. So we can see. Worst case, give him an honorable mention, but still. Okay, so ready? It's the face.
Yeah,
Yes.
okay.
he gets it. Woo. Nice.
Fair
Good one.
enough.
I mean, you're not making it to the final, presumably, because Sarah would disagree.
Yeah.
At least you made it as a category.
Yes.
So congratulations, Bahram. By the skin of your teeth, you actually managed to make it as a Shahanshah. You can go to the Paradise Gardens, meet Khosrow I, and say, hey, I tried to overthrow your dynasty. Failed ultimately, but it worked out.
But I did cool things, and they wrote a poem about me.
Yeah, exactly. So there we go. That is the end of today's episode. Thank you for joining. We hope you had a lovely time with us. And we hope you will join us next time for Khosrow II. We'll see how well that goes.
Oh boy. This is bad. I have zero hope.
Quick predictions, Ariel. Any prophecies you would like to put out right now?
I'm going to sigh at least 10 times, and it's going to be because of the Romans.
Correct.
Yeah.
Fair enough. We'll find out how much you'll sigh next time. In the meantime, first of all, I will be a speaker at Intelligent Speech next week. There was an ad at the beginning of the episode. If you want to join, please do. There's links in the description to get all your tickets. It's going to be a fun event with a bunch of podcasters from different podcasts. So please join. It'll be fun.
When is it?
It's next week on the 8th of February
2025.
of this year.
Amazing.
Starting in 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So it also works for Europe. So
Nice.
if you'd like to join, it's great. Also, if you can't join, if you buy a ticket, you do get all the recordings. So that's
You can
cool.
still watch
You
them.
can join.
Listen to it later.
Yeah.
Nice.
If you'd like to support the podcast in ways, you can do it through Patreon and join our new patron, Mike Lewis Swanson. So thank you.
Thank you, Mike.
And there in Patreon, you can have a bunch of extra episodes. We just released one on Antiochus VII.
That was fun.
We tried to reconquer Iran, but failed ultimately because this is essentially the winter of failure. As we try to go through all the kings who could have made it, but didn't.
I could use something a bit more cheerful during winter, you know.
Wow.
I guess that's
how
it goes.
What the patrons chose. That is their right to choose. If instead you'd rather not support us monetarily, that's fine, but we'd appreciate if you could leave us a review on your podcast app of choice so that other people know that we exist and come and listen. That would be nice.
Yay.
Yeah, in that case, without any further ado, we hope you have a lovely week, and we'll see you next time with Khosrow II. Goodbye.
Bye.